Hi there, Simon from simonwoods.com. I got 3 wines, all from the same winery here, and the winery is called Quinta de Nossa Senhora de Carmo. Try fitting that into a tweet. Anyway, hey, if it's a bit too long to fit into a tweet, is it too big to fit into my glass? Let's have a see. I've got a Reserva, I've got a Gran Reserva, and I've got a Touriga Nacional. Which order to do them in? I've put the Touriga Nacional last because it's the highest alcohol. First two are only 14.5%, last one is 15. But Reserva, and grapes on here, it says Tinta Roriz, Tinta Amarela, Touriga Franca, Touriga Nacional. And these are all 2008 vintage. It is intriguing, this, because it's got a smell here that I'm never quite sure whether it's from a barrel or whether it's from a vineyard. It's a smell I get in Chabolet, well, not the new generation of Chabolet, but the old generation of Chabolet. They're, what was it called? Domaine de Talabert, Crow's Hermitage, have this, what I call a creamy, milky, almost smoky bacon lactic smell, and I get just that same thing here, but round it, it's a different type of fruit. It's almost like a rich, plummy, earthy, savoury berry, rather than maybe the brighter fruit that you get in the Rhone. But it feels like it's got quite a bit in common. And as you swirl it, more of that Douro violety freshness comes out. 14.5%, so freshness isn't something you expect, but it feels like it's still going to have a bit of that. And even when I taste it, there's this like sweet, creamy flavour and texture to it. But then behind that, I think all of these are going to be wines that I should probably have opened yesterday to drink today or taste today. Behind that, there's this bit of burnished blackberry, blackcurrant, and damson skin fruit. It may be too overripe, maybe it does lack a bit of freshness, but certainly on first encounter, it's quite an impressive wine. One of those, not sure whether I want to drink a huge amount of it now, but maybe in a few years' time that might be different. I'll give it another whirl. Certainly can't fault its intensity. Maybe just trying to show off a bit too much. Hey, let's try the Gran Reserve. Gran Reserva. Never quite sure what Gran Reserva means in Portugal. In Spain, it's got a specific definition, but what it tends to mean is this is the Reserva. We're even better now. So it's probably got better fruit, better oak, maybe a longer time in oak. Well, not sure what the difference is, as I say, but it feels like this is a bit more mellow. I don't think it's going to be the same wine, because it feels like here there's more earthy undercurrents, and some of that sort of soft mellowness will have come from extra barrel aging. But it feels like there's a finer fruit flavour coming through here. If this one is loud and shouty, this one is a bit more just calm down. I used to be like that when I was your age, even if it is the same age. Not that the analogy holds, but anyway, I'll just better taste it and shut up. Now, it's fascinating keeping an eye on that, because it starts off and you notice that little bit of extra wood aging. It feels like the fruits are just a little bit more laid back. It's had more slumber in the barrel. But then the more you shake it, the more you taste it. I tasted it a couple of times while you weren't here. Sorry about that. What seems to happen is the fruit needed waking up. And so what's happening now is some of that slightly brash berry fruit is, I think it's probably a very similar wine that was in there in the first place. It's coming out and saying, right, okay, here I am, but I've learned a little bit before I emerged from my slumber. So a few more months in oak, and it's older and wiser. It's still big and it's still impressive, but here it's not quite I am going to impress you. It just sort of sits back and stands there, and can you sit and stand? Anyway, you know what I mean. It's there, and just by its very presence it impresses you that little bit more. Again, I wish they'd picked the fruit a little bit earlier, because the flavour I'm left with is getting on that slightly baked edge, but certainly the extra aging has been of benefit here, although I wouldn't be surprised if this evolved and became rather similar to that with time. But given the choice of the two today, I'd go for the Gran Reserva. But what about the Touriga Nacional? Let's give that a whirl. And so, again, 2008. 15% alcohol. Now, Touriga Nacional is one of those grapes that it's the mainstay of many great ports and many great wines in the Douro. By itself, is it just too dominant? Does it just like is it one of those things you think, I wish you had someone to like just to bring you down a peg? Let's have a see. Now it's curious, I notice I was talking about that slightly creamy, lactic-y oak edge on the Reserva. I get that same character here, so I don't know whether these two have been aged in similar barrels and the one in the middle has had a slightly different oak regime. Could just be that extra age. It doesn't feel like it's going to be over the top and jammy. It's got this slightly stern confidence about it. It feels like it's going to be big, it's going to be brawny, but it doesn't feel like it's trying to overwhelm you with certainly flavours, but will it overwhelm me with power? Let's give it a go. Well, if you've ever been to a port lodge at vintage time, there's this smell hanging in the air, and it's so like this. It's this oily fragrance and grape must. I put musty in my notes, and it doesn't mean that the wine's gone green or corky or anything like that. But it just smells like a young, boisterous, vigorous wine. I feel that power. I feel the alcohol, and there's this edge of licorice, and I feel a bit of the heat. But feels like a young, immense wine. Young, immense wine, does that mean it's going to evolve into a powerhouse of a wine? Well, I'm never sure, honestly with wines like this. Sometimes they are so sturdy and young and broad-shouldered that you think they must age brilliantly, and then they fall apart. Having had no track record of these wines, I can honestly not say that I know that this is going to be great. I've had wines which I think are going to be great, and I've been very disappointed with them 3 or 4 years on, because the brawn had gone. They'd lost their muscle tone, if you want to put it that way, and what you're left with is overripeness and gawky structure. Yes, you can taste the oak, you can taste the alcohol, you can taste some of the acidity, and but in terms of it being a harmonious wine, you're not quite sure. Here, this is the wine that, to be honest, I mean, if I had this wine now, I'd decant it, serve it a couple of hours later with some peppered steak, and I would have a really enjoyable evening. But that's the one that for me looks closest to young vintage port. I don't think it's going to be sweet. I think if there is any impression of sweetness, it's from alcohol and from sheer ripeness of fruit. I like these wines. I don't go over the top, overboard about them, because for me they're almost too big, but certainly very well made. And I'll keep an eye on them and see how they get on. I'm not going to be able to taste them in the next few days because I've got to go on holiday. Shame, but I'll be tasting them in about 6 hours' time, and I'll report back. See you soon.